Alright, it is Sunday and this is going to be the weekly recap review, and that is from August the 2nd to the 6th, which was last week. I'm going to go ahead and just go over the week, go over all of the trades one by one, and just see how I'm doing overall. At least see if I can get some kind of perspective on this. And I did finish the week with 14 trades. 9 of them were green, 64% winning percentage. I really like this. I don't think I have seen something like this. Maybe for the first time I see something like this where I have a decent amount of trades and my average dollar gain is 3 times my average dollar loss. Sometimes my average dollar gain is just slightly bigger than my average dollar loss in terms of the number, but you know, it would all work out because my winning percentage makes up the difference. This is the first time I've seen this, and I think I've seen this before with percent gains, but not with dollar gains. So $15 is my average dollar gain on a winning trade, and my average dollar loss is only $5. I have not seen something like that, and that really helps when I have a winning percentage that backs it up too. That's at least more than 50%. And I did have one break-even trade in it. It doesn't go in any of the stats when I have a break-even trade. My average dollar position size 400. My average dollar position size on a losing trade is smaller. I don't think the difference is that much. My average dollar gain time in trade and on a losing trade is pretty much the same. Maybe some of these I don't cut losses, in that the setup is still working. It's kind of still working. It can still work out, so I'm holding it for a moment, and then it doesn't work out and I cut the trade. So it doesn't really mean anything here. Sometimes I get in the trade and it's immediately not looking nice and I get out right then and there. I don't really see that here, but I don't think this is a big deal because of those reasons. Sometimes you have to be in a trade and in the long run it just doesn't work out. It breaks the level or something like that. My profit loss, I'm up 118 on the week, and that was with $5,000, $5,500 of trading volume. I'm really liking this. You see right here, last week was pretty close. Average dollar gain was just slightly bigger, in terms of number to my average dollar loss, but I had that winning percentage and some other things. I don't think I have seen something. I guess this one is pretty close, but I didn't trade with that much volume. This was probably one of my better weeks right here, but I am starting to see that I'm trading with more volume. I am making more trades. In general, my winning percentage looks a bit more realistic. You see here I only had 6 trades, right? 33%, and here was 100 because I only had 4 trades and they all were somewhat profitable. I haven't seen something as nice as this. I guess this one was pretty similar too. Oh, I guess here's another one actually. Okay, I just don't remember it looking like this, that nicely. In terms of percent gains, I guess this is the one where it's really different. Almost 4%. I've had one other time when I had 3%. This is closer to 4. And my average percent loss is closer to 2. And here was my average. Okay, I must have had like a bad trade on that one. It seems like things are doing better. I am starting to get more profitable. I like this a lot. Of the $5,500 dollars of volume I traded, 2% of that was what I earned from it in theory. I want to keep seeing more improvements. I want to see this number continue to get better, and yeah, I'm trying not to let it really get to my head. Last month I finished $373. I had 4 red days and they were all small, much smaller. I didn't have like a $200 red day, and then my biggest green day was 55, and then I feel all salty. I'm not having any of that. This was this week right here. There weren't really morning panic bounce setups I think on the last 2 days, but I don't know. I'm just trying not to let it get to my head. You know, we're just starting to come out of summer trading, so maybe there's going to be more trading opportunity, more volume, volatility. It doesn't have to, but there could. You know, getting into the rest of August and September is when it could really start to pick up. I don't want to let it get to my head because I know I have a lot of things that I need to get better at. And let's go ahead and go over the trades. Just want to take it really just one step at a time. And in terms of the setups, I almost forgot. In terms of whether the setup worked or not, I had 5 yeses, 5 kindas, 4 nos. That ended up being a D+, which is just slightly better than the last week. But I don't mind this because, again, I'm still trying. I'm still doing different setups, learning what's the right or wrong angle. What really is more important to me is how did I trade, and it looks like I had 13 yeses and 1 no, which was on Friday, the last day. That's when I tend to trade my worst because it's just the last day. I'm more tired, and then at the same time I want to end the week well, and you know I'm not going to trade till Monday, so that's totally fine. A lot of things I can get better at. Let's just go ahead and go over the trades. There is a total of 14 trades, and I'm trying to do it one step at a time. I am a bit tired, so maybe I'll just be a little, I don't know, maybe unprofessional. But let's just try to get through this. RSHN, morning panic bounce play on the 2nd. So let's look at RSHN. Looks like we had a nice run up here, and then it had another run up, right? And this is when I traded it. Had this uptrend from what, 48 sub penny level to a penny 26, and what has it done since? It's still trying to hold itself together, but it definitely fell. Let's look at the 2nd, which is gonna be back here. Let's highlight from here. My entry was 108, 935. So 935 was right here, 108. So right about here was my entry, 935. Near the bottom of the wick, I didn't quite frankly get the very bottom, but it looks like the candle right before was a big volume candle, and you know, at this range right here. So maybe I took a buy for that reason, thinking, hey, this thing could potentially, you know, try to turn around, and it was a consolidation candle when I got in at 935. The only issue I really see here is that 108 is my entry right at 935, but VWAP is like 118, so there isn't that much range. I guess maybe if my math is right, it could be like 10% max, you know, 10 to 11.8 maybe, but that's the only thing I really see against it. I sold at 11.24, 938, almost 939. So 938 was right here, 11.24. So about right here, 11.2 something, 938. So yeah, give or take right here was my sell. So my sell was here, 935. I was in right here. So I guess I didn't do that bad for something that didn't really do that well. I probably had a signal that there was a lot of topping action at 115, and I was probably, you know, wanting it to break past it, but I didn't like the price action, and it did have one more drop here, although it didn't really get near, you know, it didn't get below the lows or anything like that, but it was a drop. This might have scared me out of it, I don't know. It did turn around and eventually touch VWAP, but that would have been kind of hard. It was just a good morning panic bounce play attempt, I think, and it just didn't work out that well. Yep, it says that I sold because there was too much topping action. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the window so there's less noise. I'll be back. Alright, I'm back, and yeah, that was the most I did with that trade. It looks like my dollar position size was not really that big, so I probably thought it wasn't perfect, and also being a Monday, there's nothing wrong with trading perhaps smaller on a Monday just to get back in the habits. I think that was an okay attempt for what it was. It wasn't perfect, but it could have been much worse. DRNG was a first dip towards VWAP setup, and let's look at DRNG for the 2nd. So that was the same day. Nice run up, although not really that perfect, and it did fail that little breakout it did. But right here at this time, it was still, you know, a nice potential because it just had this breakout over this high right here on the 15th, and it could have been a lot of potential for this thing to really make a run, but we did not get that. So I think a nice dip towards VWAP was a good setup behind that ideology. My entry was 10 o'clock, 102. So let's look at 10 o'clock, 102, which was right here. This green candle, 102. So yeah, clearly had this uptrend right from this 94 sub penny level as high as 11.8, which isn't that bad, although looking now I probably would want more range. And then it drops towards VWAP. You know, I see that it's potentially going to hold VWAP. You never know if it's going to hold or not, if it's going to just keep downtrending. But by looking at the price action and just going, you know, with the trade in terms of that, we're not trading it. But yeah, that was my entry at 10 o'clock. Let's see when I sold. I sold at 10.2, 10.85. So 10.2 right here, 10.85, 10.85. Did I? Yeah, 10.85. So 10 to 10, right about here. Did I really just top tick this? Wow, I really top ticked it. Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I top ticked it and I almost bottom ticked it. I did sell at the top. I did trade a small position size, so maybe if I had a larger position size, it would have been much harder for me to top tick this setup. But that was a trade there. I did just trade a very simple block size. In theory, you know, 10,000 shares. That was a 6% gain, $6.50, small size. And yeah, I like how I had this dip towards VWAP setup. Not just because, even though I would have wanted it now to have maybe spiked more, it did do this nice spike in the first place, and there was something behind the entire strategy, which is a potential breakout over this high right here. That could mean that this thing could uptrend a lot more, so why not take, you know, I'll buy a dip at VWAP or something that might hold VWAP the entire day afterwards, which it kind of did right here except for this part. So I think that was a pretty good trade attempt. I'm not sure how that would have been if I traded a larger size, like $1,000 position or a $10,000 position, but it worked out there with that $100 position. I still have a lot of things to get better at. One of those things would be to trade larger position sizes. Anything that's reversal long or just random high or low or just random dip buy never works out. So I can definitely see that this was something I was not too proud of. My percent loss wasn't horrible. At least I traded a tiny position, but let's go ahead and look at PHIL for a random reversal long. So the second for PHIL. So yeah, it's had a nice run up, and the second was right here. This red day. I guess the only thing going in my favor was that maybe I went for a reversal long because I thought maybe it was excessive, and the fact that it cracked to this level, perhaps, I don't know. We'll take a look. We'll highlight the entire day. I was trading something around here. Let's see when I got in. 10.29 at 70. So 10.29, let's just zoom in a little more. It didn't really do much. 10.29 at 70, so I was in right here. My entry was not horrible for 70 if that was my entry, although I probably could have gone 6.9 and that would have helped me maybe hold this position. I remember this. I cut, I think, in this candle right here. It did turn around and get to what, 7.5, but really, you know, 6.9 to 7, 70 to 7.5 is not really that perfect. Kind of degenerate. It wasn't really that horrible of an attempt, but maybe if I had a better position, not a better position size, but a better entry, That would have been a lot better. Anyway, yeah, I did sell at 1032, so I held for 3 minutes at 6.8. 1032, 6.8. So that was back here. Yeah, it was this candle right here. So I was probably risking 68 being executed at the bid, thinking, okay, you know, if we're at 69 by 70 and it's trading back and forth, and we did get that little perk right here above 70 where it got to 71, and then the issue is that there's a lot of selling action, and then that support at 6.9 is taken out, and then it gets to 6.8 on the bid, and then maybe 6.9 or 70 at the ask, and then we start having prints going through at 6.8. I'll probably just cut the trade right then and there because it just could crack 68 and then cause a big panic, and I don't want to be a part of it. I'd rather be selling at 6.8 than to risk 6.8 and be in potential panic. So that was the idea behind that. The setup did work eventually, because right after this and this candle right here, it kind of went back to 71. It kind of held itself, never touched, you know, 68 again, and then it did uptrend some more. It did get to VWAP, which probably would have been the goal for me to sell. I'm not trying to, you know, hit a home run, especially on something like this. All in all, it wasn't the worst setup, but I probably just didn't feel happy because it was maybe it just felt like a boredom trade, but it wasn't at the end too bad of an attempt. There was a catalyst behind it, and that, you know, it did crack like this range right here, so maybe the promoters or whoever is behind the stock is going to want to push this thing back up to where it was, and it did come back a little, so that could have been the possibility with that one. Not the worst trade, honestly. Now let's look at the third, NSAV. I traded this thing 3 times. I tried a morning panic bounce play. Let's go ahead and look at NSAV for the third. I traded it a few times trying to get the bottom, and that one was kind of hard. It was like FERN. Nice run up, as you can see. It's still trying to hold itself together, but you know, it's not perfect. Very crazy price action here. I'm very interested in seeing how. Oh right, it was a third. I was like, how was that the red day? This is the red day, and that was a pretty nice red day. It hasn't really looked that clean since, but clearly that was the red day back here on the third. So let's look at the third. This was not the third, this was the second, and I remember missing this one. This would have been nice, but I did trade this right here. Let's just highlight the entire day, why not? And yeah, it looks like it had that bottom eventually here, another bottom, and then it kind of held itself together. So let's just do it from here so it doesn't look that small. And I traded a $500 position, $1,000 position, $450 position. The first one cut losses quickly, small loss, small percent loss. Not a bad attempt. 934, 935. So 10.348 at 934. So it was back here, you know, and I was risking off of the low, I believe, right here. I guess I should zoom in a little more. Yeah, right here. So let me go back and see if I got, yeah, 934, 10.348. So my entry was right here, 10.3, right about there, I guess 10.3.5. But anyway, my entry was right here, risking off the low, which was 123. When it cracks it, I cut the trade immediately. That's how I do it. 9.35 was when I sold, which was, yeah, right when it cracked to the lows. This candle right here, I sold at 121, so just barely below that 123 risk level. Very good attempt there. It had more room to drop. Cut losses quickly. No regrets with that one. The next entry was much larger. I probably had more confidence. Looks like I was in it at 937, and that was 10.2. 937 was right here. Probably thought it was going to turn around. 2 big volume candles right there, risking off the low, which would have been probably, it was just risking just, yeah, 1 or 10 cents right here I was probably just risking 10 cents flat in at 937, 10.22, which wasn't the best entry, but I did try a larger size. Maybe that was just the most I was able to get. Nothing wrong with that. I saw that 10.53. That was 938. So 938 was right here, and that was 10.53. So almost got the top, really. Not very bad at all. I did spike, you know, get to VWAP. Okay, that's pretty much my goal. VWAP. Next candle, looking like topping action. Let me just cut the trade right there. Nice percent gain in that sense. 3%, 31 bucks. Larger size. Ultimately was not the very bottom, of course. It was one more dip here. This is still a downtrend. This was the ultimate dip. I know I didn't get the actual bottom. I have yet to really get the actual bottom on some of these that have multiple drops. Let's look at the last one, 948, 91. So 948. Yeah, I like this trade the most. So I got in at 91. Maybe I could have done better with my entry here at 948. But if it looks like it's just going to turn around, I might as well jump in while it's still somewhat early. And why did I get in it at this point? You know, you never know if it's going to be the bottom or not. But the idea in theory was that the volume is just not what it was before. So fading volume is a nice potential indicator that all the big sellers are gone. All the dumping and panic selling is out. So now this thing can bounce. And it did bounce. It got to what, as high as 952. It wasn't that much bounce, but I mean 90 to 952 is not really that bad at all. That's actually kind of good. I sold at 953 for 93. So 953, 93 was right about here. So that actually wasn't such a bad sell. You know, I mean, obviously I didn't know right here if this thing is going to keep uptrending and hit VWAP or not. So it was a bit of a scaredy cat sell, but considering how these things have not been perfect with like this one, FERN, GGII, DPLS, and so many others that have all of these little drops, it wasn't that bad. And I was trading, what size was I trading here? Not the same position as last time because I was probably a bit more scared, but I think this was a good attempt. The only thing I could have done was maybe just trade larger because of that theory that the volume is fading. But I did do a conservative sell. I wasn't holding through all of this, waiting, and then, oh, I have to cut. No, oh, it's actually dropping. No. I think it's good to play these things very conservatively because they just fail so much. Good attempt, though. I did miss the ultimate bottom again. I mean, you think you're in at the bottom potentially in the 90s, right? Thing drops to 71. And then it does that nice uptrend, right? But that's fine. I remember I almost got in. I think it was around right here or right here. If I go back to the day that I traded it, the 3rd on YouTube, I can rewatch that video. Yeah, I mean that's how I feel right now. These morning panic bounce plays have been kind of iffy. Although towards the end of the week it was actually not that bad, and then the last 2 days there just weren't any setups. It looks like I traded KYNC 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Let's look at KYNC. Morning panic bounce play. Nice percent gain. Nice dollar gain. Nice dollar size. Maybe I could have went larger. Who knows? But I'm just trying not to let it get to my head. I'm just going to take it one step at a time. Let's look at KYNC for the 4th. Nice run up, you know, one of those weird pumps that just moves so slowly over a long period of time, drops, and then it gets exponential. This was the 4th, so like one of the first red days, second one to be exact. Let's just do it a little. I guess that won't really help that much. But yeah, that was the 4th right here. It did have another follow-up day. This day was absolutely disgusting. It was down like 45% on the day, and it had a gap up, so maybe it dropped to like 55%. I'm not extremely sure, but let's look at the 4th for KYNC, which is right here. It looks like it just faded at the end of the day, and it never, I think it did touch VWAP, but it clearly does not look nice. KYSC, this is the 4th. My entry was 937.271. So let's look at 937.271, which was right here. That was actually not a bad entry at 271, actually near the very bottom. I've really learned this a lot, where some of these have that panic and then, oh whoops, is going to bounce immediately back. Oh well, I have to chase now. Nope, I'm not going to chase it. I'm going to wait for this thing. If it turns back around and goes near the bottom, I'll be very interested in buying, but if it keeps going without me, that's just too bad. This one was nice to me. It came back, right, big volume candle, and it came back to the lows, and I was in at 271, basically risking 27. I don't think I would have risked the wick here, maybe, but I think I would have played it very, very safely at 27. Being the risk level, even if it just cracks it a little, like right at the wick, and then it bounces, that will be fine. You know, I wouldn't mind that too much. So yeah, this was the move right here, and this one touched VWAP, nice and easy. 938, 289, 938, which was the next minute. 289. So the only thing I really did kind of bad, although, you know, it's been a while since I've seen some of these just work this nicely, this perfectly. The only issue is that this thing was a bit wicky. So with the idea that a lot of these have not really done well, they haven't really touched VWAP or went past VWAP, and then this one's trading kind of wicky. I did get a killer entry, but with all these in mind, I don't mind that I sold while it was still at an uptrend. I mean, I had plenty of time here to still sell for more than what I bought. But it, at the end of the day, wasn't horrible, because I just haven't seen these work in a very long time. So I'm not going to beat myself up too much. Maybe I have been in the market, or maybe in the future, a market where these things are consistently bouncing perfectly, heading towards VWAP and even past it, and then I sell the stock while it's still uptrending, not waiting for it to form a high. That would be bad. I would probably knock this into a bad trade in terms of discipline, or maybe like a kinda, but I don't regret that right here. I'm happy that I went larger, because it did drop right back at the risk level, you know. So in theory, I trade larger because I have less to risk. Really happy with this trade. This is probably one of my favorite ones. Only thing, again, is that I could have probably sold better, but they were not working that nicely at that time. Let's look at the 4th. This is the higher low setup that did not work. So let's look at 951. I got in and out the same minute. 279.55. 951. 279.55. So right here, I got in and out the same candle, and so I was basically probably just risking this level right here, which is what, 277. So the moment 276 shows up at the bid and it's being executed, I cut the trade immediately. That was probably the idea here. Morning panic bounce play. Here's the low. Maybe it's gonna hold here, be a higher low, and head towards VWAP, which would have been nice. Turned out to be a lower low, and it had another one which was even lower. No problems with that. Unfortunately, I didn't trade the ultimate bottom. Didn't trade this right here. This would have been hard. This would have been hard too, but I do regret not trading the inverse head and shoulders here. I think I wasn't there. At least I hope I wasn't there. If I hesitated, that would have been pretty bad. I guess I'd have to go back and check, but this would have been nice. You know, 25 to 27, which was VWAP. Even the sell, yeah, at 27, 27.4 was VWAP there. Not so bad. Clearly a lot of things I have to get better at. This was a good attempt. It didn't work out, but that's fine. I don't like higher lows that much. That was the only thing I'd say about it. Lower lows tend to work out much nicer. I could have done something like that, or maybe a higher low if it's at like VWAP or something, but that wasn't the case here. Let's look at the 5th for CLWD. This was my break-even trade. Totally break-even. Bad price action. Setup did not work out. Let's look at CLWD for the 5th. Did I really trade this? Yeah, I did. Alright, so yeah, I traded the 5th. Not a perfect morning panic bounce play because of the fact it was only up one day. Probably for the setup I should put imperfect, or maybe actually 1 day. Yeah, 1 day number 5 setup because it didn't actually get to 3 days. And let's go ahead and look at the 5th, which, you know, I'd probably do it from here. It did drop and then try to come back. What has it done since the 5th? Was that really like the last day this thing traded? That's right, it was, because it changed its ticker to something with the letter A. I forgot. I think it fell from here, but I don't remember exactly. So let's just go ahead and do it from here. For that, you know, in theory, morning panic bounce play. My entry was 941, so a bit later in the day at 282. 941, 282. So right here, 941, 282. I probably just thought this thing was going to turn around, even though it had this sketchy drop, red on the day, freaky price action, right? You know, I thought, okay, maybe the volume is fading, so this thing is going to turn around at some point, even if we don't have like a big volume candle that happened recently. Maybe it's going to turn around just because of the fact that the volume is fading, and then, you know, maybe it'll turn around and rip and make a nice second day green day stock. But that wasn't the case here. I got in at 281, 941, which is a great entry, you know, risking 28. It's very close to my entry, so in theory I could have traded at a larger size. I did trade a somewhat larger size, but not really huge. I got out at 944, so I held for 3 minutes, give or take, 2 minutes and 41 seconds, and I sold at the same price. So let's look at 944. Right about here, 944. I was in at 41. It did do that spike here. I don't know if that was after I ordered or before, but yeah, a nice sell into 41. You know, 281 break even. It did fade a little more. It did get as low as 263, and then it went to 277, and then like a tiny higher low, and then it got to VWAP. But that was totally fine. You know, it does not look really perfect, but I've seen some of these that only spike 1 day, and it works absolutely beautifully. That was not the case here, and that's totally fine. KYNC. Morning panic bounce play for the 5th. So look at KYNC. Morning panic bounce play for the 5th. So I did trade the ugly day. That just did not do anything. Just disgusting price action. Beautiful for anybody who's freaking short. You know, short the first red day. That would have been super profitable. Let's just do it from here. And of course it did fade some more. Morning panic bounce play, 947, 202. So let's look at 947, 202. Right here, 947. So not really the best entry, but some of these are just so freaking weird that I understand maybe I didn't get the best entry. I wanted it to see an uptrend a little more. I did learn that some of these that have a morning panic bounce play have a stupid wick that gets so close to VWAP or at VWAP or even past it, and then it comes back down like nothing happens, but then the setup still works out. I did miss one trade. I forgot which one it was. I think it was DPLS. I don't even remember, because I had a big freaking wick. I stopped. Oh, it was UAMM. I had it like a huge wick, right? It just kept me out of the trade because I saw the potential bottom, volume candles and all that stuff, then a huge freaking spike. But then it turned out to be a wick like this, and then it works out very nicely. So I learned that. And again, that was my entry at 202, right? Yep. And 947, 950 was 207. So right here, 207, right about there at 950. A pretty good sell. I probably sold because I saw some potential topping action, and I just didn't like it. And that was a good sell. Great in hindsight. Size was pretty decent. It just didn't work out. And I think overall it wasn't that bad because I did let a top form at 21 before selling. So that's something really good. And it just didn't offer much range. Like, it didn't get the VWAP or anything like that. This is the one that didn't hit VWAP the entire day. It was that pathetic. So for something that dropped so much, and I think a lot of people traded it and became bag holders, I at least made a profit on it, sold on that potential topping action. Even if it didn't spike towards VWAP and wasn't greedy, I saw, okay, this could be the potential top. Let's do a sell here. Even if it cracks and breaks and runs towards VWAP, that'll be fine. I think that was a good trade. Now I traded Mr. Robinhood on the 5th. So let's look at Robinhood for the 5th, and this was an inverse head and shoulders. This is a listed stock setup. Doesn't really look that nice because it hasn't traded very much, but in theory there was a nice breakout. It kind of shows over this 40 level. I need to get good at swing trading some of these listed stocks that break like a range and then has like a potential run. A great example is BTBT, which had this top right here at 9-ish, right, and it broke past it, and now it got as high as 19. I need to get good at stuff like that. So yeah, the 5th was right there, 1 day back. I guess I can't even, well, I guess I can do this. I guess not. Okay, let's look at the 5th, which was back here. Yep, the 5th. Let's just probably do it right here. Excuse me. I'm gonna guess the setup was right here. 1051. Tiny position size, by the way. Very tiny. In fact, this probably went against me in terms of my stats, but there's nothing wrong with that. I probably could have went larger, a $600 position size, because I was basically risking 50 pennies. So why not trade, add another zero to the trade and trade instead of a $600 position size, risk $5. I'm not gonna cry if I lose $5 on a setup that in theory could work out nicely, but at the same time it was kind of speculative. So I'm happy with my position and idea with it. 1051, 62.80 basically. So 1051. We'll zoom in a little more. 1051. 1051? Yeah, 1051. So that was not an inverse head and shoulders. That was, I remember this trade now. This was an inverse head and shoulders second higher low. That was my setup, a second higher low. Now that will make more sense. So 62.80, 1051. Yeah, shoulder, head, shoulder, second higher low. It did not work out. It didn't, uptrend some more, put up more higher lows, but that's fine. 1051. And that was 62.80. So right about here. Not bad, because I did wait for this thing to get a downtrend. Turned around, took a buy. Then it did uptrend just a little more, but I remember just not liking the price action, and I cut it. 63.40, 1054. Right here, right before I had a downtrend. 63.40. Yeah, right before this thing just turned around and just failed right here. It did have just a tiny little pop above 63.40, and I was lucky to get my position sold there. Not the best in terms of that, but I would have cut losses anyway, at that 50 level I think I was trading off of, and that would have been just a tiny loss. But I did sell this thing. Not that bad actually at all. It was a good attempt. It could have kept going, because it just had that squeeze at 40, and it's here in the 60s. It could keep going in theory, but it didn't in this case. The head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders, worked out nicely. Shoulder, head, shoulder. I remember not trading this one. I missed it or something. I wasn't there for it, but that would have been nice. 261.50 to 64.44. That was not a bad attempt at all, and I'm going to keep trying more listed stock setups, although I'm not really that good with them. I can only get better with practice. KYNC, fader, morning spike. So let's look at KYNC for the 6th. The 6th is right here. Okay, yeah, it was the last trading day, so it looks kind of weird here. But the idea is that this thing Nice run up, but look at this, red day, red day, red day. Surely, by chance, maybe the promoters or whoever's behind the stock, or just people in general, see this thing down so much off of its highs at 39, and now it's trading right here. You know, in theory, they could try to uptrend and they could run back. Maybe it won't get to the highs. Maybe it'll get halfway there, but it's not just going to be a big straight downtrend to zero, right? So my idea was that maybe, you know, this day it could be the day where it tries to turn around. If there's a morning spike potential, let's go for a morning spike, and that's what I did there for the 6th, right about here. And I think I was in and out the same minute. Yeah, 931, 931. 134, 141. So let's just zoom in some more. Alright, 931 was right here. I saw this price action, you know, thinking maybe this thing can uptrend and starts breaking out, looking nice, getting to 13, and I get in at 131, and then I sell at what was it, 140, 141. So right here was my sell. You know, it did have a red candle. It held itself. It held VWAP. So that would have been scary. I don't have that much experience with spikes, but it's nice to see here that it did show some kind of a potential thing that I could learn from, that this thing had a spike, drops towards VWAP, holds VWAP, I guess, right here. And then it got as high as 154. And then it started trading in this range here at 145. In theory, I could have sold at 145. You know, with more experience, but I think that was a good attempt. Out of curiosity, what would have been a sell at 145 is actually not that much a difference from my entry. That would have made it $11 profitable, 8% instead of 5. Still a tiny position size. This is great. I like attempting those sit-ups. Definitely a good attempt. Yep. And that was a spike. You know, I need to get good at spikes. Morning panic bounce plays, I feel like I have a lot of experience with. Still, I can still get better with that. And then, you know, I want to trade like the higher low, the lower low off of that for sure. And then the next one would be dip towards VWAP, which is something I'm working on. And now this, excuse me, my voice. Now this thing would be like spikes in general in the morning or the afternoon based off some news. And then after that, probably will be swing trading. A lot of those listed stocks I do breakouts. I'm just trying to get more setups, you know, that I'm good at. And obviously, as I get better with them in theory, or maybe stop trading certain ones that I just do not trade well, you know, I start trading larger position sizes on the ones I do see improvements with. So that's going to be the goal. I don't want to, you know, try to push myself too much in an unhealthy way, but I gotta keep doing better. I am starting to see some kind of an uptrend, but I just have to be cautious and just keep playing it day by day. KXIN, this was my worst trade of the week. Listed stock, chased my entry. It was just not a good entry. Sure, I lost only $4, and I at least traded small because I knew this thing was a bit speculative. I was thinking of trading 100 shares. Yeah, this was just not my best trade, and I'm glad that this was not my best trade and I can learn from it. But yeah, I definitely have to get better at these listed stocks, slowly but surely, in theory, God willing, right? KXIN, let's look at the 6th if it lets me. Yep, first day, potential morning spiker, you know, like not morning spiker, but potential thing that can keep running for several days. Although this one was a bit iffy, like, I don't know, people said bad things about it, but maybe that can make a short squeeze. Random freaking higher low setup, 1039, 290, 1039, let's just highlight the entire day, right about here. Yeah, this was my stupid trade right here. 1039 right here, 290. Chased it. You see this thing? My entry was right here. Like a freaking idiot. So my idea was, okay, you know, this is me watching listed stocks. Okay, maybe could be like a head and shoulders buy. So shoulder, head forms, drops, and then I take a buy and makes a shoulder. Huge spike. Okay, that's great. That's actually really nice. Let's try again. Shoulder, head, and now let's wait for this thing to drop and make a shoulder, and then, you know, I'm gonna buy before the shoulder is formed so I can sell into that. But it was holding what I thought was so strongly here, so strongly that I thought, what if this thing is just gonna do like what it did here, shoulder, head, and then the shoulder in theory just breaks the head and just keeps running? What if it does that again? It's just holding so nicely, and there's nothing wrong with me taking a buy and trying this setup. It wasn't a bad setup. My entry was just horrible. It's starting to spike 290. I need to get in before I'm too late. Well, I sold, you know, I bought near the very top of this thing, and that was not good. I should have either have been in the 280s, the low 280s, or I should have allowed it to spike, and then it comes back down, maybe at the same level or slightly above it, and then I could have tried again. I would have made it so much better, but no. I did do that buy there at 290. I'm not going to do that. That was a great lesson learned. At least try not to do that, because, you know, I just had a great experience trading it from learning from it, and I'll try not to do that again. 1042, I sold at 2816, which wasn't bad, honestly. What time was it again exactly? Yeah, almost 1043. My sell was at 1042. It did do like that classic listed stock red candle, and then it did do like that theory shoulder head. Let me take a buy before it forms a shoulder. And then I thought, well, is this really all it can do? 277, and yeah, that was all I did. 265 to 277. That's the shoulder. Schwab was not shortable. Did not have the stock shortable, and it's not like I have an account to short really. Because the one I had accidentally, I traded past the PDT rule, so I had to wait for that to settle, and that's fine really. Yeah, it did drop nicely though. 274, 245. It did do like an inverse head and shoulders here, shoulder, head, shoulder. 248, 262, which wouldn't have been that bad, but yeah, and it did run nicely towards the end of the day. I was thinking about this kind of setup. That's even further. I need to really, you know, just get better. I have a lot of setups I need to improve that I think seem very profitable with these OTC and listed stocks. I'll be interested in seeing what this one does today. But yeah, that was a great lesson learned with that trade right here. The last trade, VNTH. Afternoon spike dip buy. So let's look at VNTH, and yeah, afternoon spike. Okay, let's just do it from here. Super sub penny stock. I mean, not even sub penny stock in that. Oh, it's like 0078. No, this is like the bottom end. Crazy sub penny stock. This was it right here. Let's just zoom in a little more. This was basically a stock that started the spike because it had news. 334.29. So 334 right here, 29. So the idea is that it looks kind of like not so crazy, but it was really, you know, just it spiked for just a small amount of time. I should probably just stretch it out and make it look more like what it was back then. But yeah, my entry was at 34, right? Well, oh shoot, that was my sell. My entry was 33 at 29. So 30, I mean, yeah, it's 33.29. So in theory, my entry was right here in this candle. It did get to what, 32, but just briefly. And then my sell was at 2955. You know, I sold the next minute, 34. I wanted it to work then and there because the idea is that this thing spiked nicely because of news, and then it has that dip, right? But then in theory, I should be in at like 27, but I chased it. I'm at 29. I wasn't seeing the stock when it did it. Its initial run up. I saw this because Tim went in the stock. I saw the alert. I knew what kind of setup this was, what kind of, you know, risk reward I could trade off of it, which is basically, especially because I'm not in at like 27, which would have been ideal. If it's not immediately working and immediately, uptrending more from when I got in right here, I'm going to cut the trade, and I did cut the trade. I still sold for a profit. I would have been fine if I sold for break even or even a tiny loss. It just was not continuing the run up. I wanted it to run up more. From right when I got in, because I knew my entry was kind of late. With all of that in mind, I did trade that conservatively. My size was also very small, which reflects it. Good attempt, really. It was pretty much an alert chase, but I had like my own strategy from it. I knew what kind of setup it was, so I don't think it was the worst thing. I think it just literally just alerted me to the setup, and then I tried trading it. So that's all I got. Yeah, I just have to keep getting better. I can trade potentially larger if there are nice morning panic bounce play setups in theory this week. I'm just going to try to take it easy, get better at dip towards VWAP setups. Try inverse head and shoulders on morning panic bounce play stocks that are dropping. I need to get good at swing trading potentially, those listed stocks that break a range and make a nice move over several days. I want to try that. There's a lot of things I have to get better with. I do want to, in theory, again, like I said, trade larger potentially on morning panic bounce play setups. But if there aren't any nice morning panic bounce play stocks, I'll have to be more cautious. I can't chase my entry like I did on that listed stock. I can just wait for it to come back at that same level or put up like a higher low, but don't chase it. Great lesson learned there. I just got to be patient, just not let it get to my head. There's clearly a lot of things I have to get better at. Could trade larger too, but overall I think it wasn't bad. I want to keep seeing improvements like this. If I can be more consistent, that will be great. But what can I say? I have a long journey ahead of me. I'm thankful to God for that. I'm just gonna have to keep trying harder, and that's all I can do.